Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell for notification, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I am doing a review of is called The Straw Hats and the Iliad. It is a One Piece story written by Cardboard Hut, and I really did like this story. It was fine. Nothing is spectacular, but for what it is, it's pretty good. But how so good? Yeah, that sounded better in my mind. But yeah, so let's get started with the review. So the plot, in order to get an idea of the plot, I have to at least say that the story in One Piece, this story takes place between the events of Alabasta and the events of Skypiea. So they just beaten Baroque Works. Nico Robin just joined the pirate crew, and they're on their way to go up to the sky to fight some Indian Hindu, like a really ridiculous looking face. One Piece is weird. But before that, they take a pit stop in this original island. I say original because I wouldn't be surprised if there's like more locations that do Sea Prism. Plus, I'm pretty sure Merijois is going to be like Roman, either Greek or Roman themed, which is basically what this island has a theme, because some One Piece islands do have like themes, like Dressrosa is based off Spain, Wano based off Japan, Alabasta based off Egypt, Whole Cake Island based off Disney. I don't know how to describe Whole Cake Island without thinking of either Disney or Mario. Yeah. But that's beside the point. So the story actually doesn't start with the Straw Hats. It actually starts with these two original characters called Helena, or Helena, as the author wants her to be known. I'll probably be saying Helena just more out of convenience than anything else. No offense. And her general, Hector, who is this big, strong man who has the ability to turn into a plant and wood and stuff like that. And, and then they run into the Straw Hats, and not knowing who the Straw Hats are, they attack the Straw Hats out of, like, fear of, like, trying to defend themselves. No, Straw Hats don't take them seriously at first, and then Helena has a Sea Prism dagger, nicks Luffy, knocks him out. And then they all, they kind of like, oh my god, they took off Luffy. Like, no! And then Hector basically destroys the Going Merry, and then fixes it, and then destroys it again, and then fixes it again over the course of the story. Like, it happens. And, they're fighting. Helena and Zoro, they kind of start duking it out, despite the fact Hector told her, so your father told you, do not fight Zoro. No, I do what I want. I am the princess of Ilium. The island is called Ilium. The main capital is called. Yeah, the island's weird. And so they duel, but Hector manages to get the boat to crash, and they crash down on Ilium. And basically, they run into each other on the beach. Helena challenges Zoro to a duel. Zoro beats Helena, and then that's when the plot starts to pick up, when Helena basically says, you beat me, you're not my husband. And Zoro's like, what? What? A rock slide happens. They kind of get separated. Hector, thinking the Straw Hats technically killed Helena, basically does general things by saying, we're gonna kill you. It's like, we're basically gonna kill you and all this stuff. And, they continue on. Before I continue on the plot, I do want to mention how Ilium works. So the island is, for those of you who don't know what One Piece is, or more specifically how certain aspects of One Piece, the powers that people get are called the Devil Fruits. They basically give you a random ability that basically it basically changes how your body works and stuff like that. However, you're given the weakness of not being able to be in water. That with a few exceptions, like I think Aokiji can possibly do something in the water. I don't know, considering the fact his whole shtick is like ice, he can probably like make ice around himself and then just be in the water and kind of just, I'm stuck here. This is fine. And try and do something like, you know, like devil fruits are weird. But that's the main drawback of having a devil fruit. Like, you can't swim, you can't go in the water. Because guess what? Then your body just completely just flops like a fish in dry air. There's also this material called sea prism. Now, in canon, we know most of the sea prism that the world government uses come from Wano. That has been established at the time of the story was released. It was published 2015. I'm not 100% sure the information regarding Wano's relationship with Sea Prism has been revealed. I know during like 2015 we were, I think, maybe at the end. I think we're at the end of Dressrosa. I think. I know the arcs, but I can't remember when, you know, how long in terms of like how the manga worked in terms of time framing and stuff like that. I think around like July 2nd, 2015, we're at the end of near the end of Dressrosa. So either the middle of Dressrosa or the end, because I know, because we've had Zoe and Whole Cake Island. Now we're just in Wano, so I guess I'm not 100% sure on that. But I'm pretty sure at that point in time, we didn't know about Wano being, you know, the people who made Sea Prism Stone. So we didn't know that. So, you know, it's cool that we got an island based off Greek mythology whose whole shtick is we make all the Sea Prism materials that the Marines use to capture the pirates. That comes from Iliad. I like that idea. Sure, again, it's kind of been retconned because of Wano, so them's the breaks. I can't blame the author for that. But I do like, and just like Wano, Ilium is like completely separate from the world government control, so it's like they're a complete isolationist country. It was basically like a deal they had with the world government, like, we will give you the materials, but we're not a part of you. We're independent. We just give you the materials. You let us do our own thing. Oddly enough, completely similar to Wano, except Wano's isolationist in nature. So, I just like the weird circumstances. Like, oh, everything that Ilium is actually became Wano. I find that funny. Except for like the whole thing with Kaido and the whole famine stuff with Orochi and stuff like that. I'm reminded of that Orochi was a horrible waste of space. So much potential. But back to the story. So Hector chooses to literally put him in all the Straw Hats in Sea Prism handcuffs. Granted, just the ones that use Devil Fruit power. So Chopper, Luffy, and Robin. Yeah, they didn't get Brook yet. So it would just be Luffy, Chopper, and Robin at that point in time. And they drown him. And on the other side, Helena and Zoro, they kind of wander around underground. Zoro gets sick with some mushroom fungi, with some mushrooms. And Helena tells Zoro about what's happening in the capital. So basically what happens is there's this weird demon called Nemo, and he basically shrouded the entire capital in darkness, and is trying to kill people and basically trying to torture people and stuff like that. Zoro wants to help her, but they gotta get out of the underground first, and so they manage to eventually escape. After Zoro completely gets sick, mushrooms are growing inside of him, he's actually dying, so Helena manages to save him. They kind of get to know each other, and then Zoro and Helena manage to rescue the rest of the Straw Hats, wherein night falls. Nemo comes out to play as he's this big centaur, minotaur thing. And another character we're introduced to called Troy manages to help out, and slayed Nemo. So it's like, hey, we're all done. We're gonna celebrate the party. Finds out that Helena's father's dead, and then you find out more about how Ilium works. Basically, it's very Greek mythological in mind. I.e., the story is called the Straw Hats in the Iliad, so it makes sense that it would even do the gods stuff. So basically, what happens is Helena wants to beseech the gods, and yes, the gods are actually real. It's One Piece. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past Oda to actually put gods in One Piece because he's put like so much crazy shit that even I wouldn't bat an eye if hey, there's gods. Okay, I wouldn't bat an eye. And so Helena makes a deal. She wants to heal herself. She wants to heal everyone in the nation because during the fight with Nemo, she got her back broken, so she can't walk anymore, and she wants to be the princess that Ilium needs to help them and protect them from harm. And so Apollo basically goes okay, I'll do it, but I will give you this arrow, and the arrow will not only heal everyone in the island, but will also absorb all of their pain into the arrow. And if you want to actually if you want to use this arrow, you have to have someone take the pain. So so similar to what happened at the end of Thriller Bark when Kuma basically did the same thing with Luffy and Zoro. It's I will help you. I will take his pain away, and I will give it to you, Zoro. All right, do it. All right. And we get the cool thing with Zoro folding he's near dead and stuff like that. And so basically that happens, and so some of the gods are kind of jealous because what happens was Helena accidentally gives them a golden apple, and three of the gods, Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena, they fight over who is the fairest. And Zeus is a complete Chad in this story. He's well, there's the person who ate the apple. Wait, who ate the apple? The rubber man. and they're mad. Well, Athena's kind of takes it on the chin. It's well, I know what I'm beating. And so we kind of get this really lax where we're introduced to the island of Ilium and how the whole island works and what separates it from how it's separate from the world government and all that stuff. And they prepare for this game. It's they give all the Straw Hats amnesty sort of thing. They're allowed to stay here. Don't bother them. Don't kill them. Don't do any of that. By order of now the soon-to-be queen, because guess what? She still hasn't forgotten that Zoro needs to get married. And Luffy's no, as your captain, you can't get married. Alright. And so there's a lot that goes on over the course of the story, because this story is pretty dang long. It's 258 words. Honestly, I think anything past 200,000 reaches a very long territory. And we find a lot of information. I don't want to spoil most of the stuff in the second half, mainly because I think this is one of those stories that I think is good enough that I can say I don't have to spoil everything, but I can spoil just enough. So, first off, the father's not dead. Because it's One Piece, because it's a general rule of One Piece that the character ain't dead if you don't see the body. Because honestly, how many times Oda has tried that on us, and we just stopped giving zero shits about it. It's oh, X character's dead. Give it 5 chapters, the person will turn out to be alive. Oh, he's alive! Ta-da! Oh. I guess that's why Ace's death in Marineford actually works so well, because we're gotten so used to that fact that every single time when Oda kills off a character, it turns out they're alive, and everyone's shocked when Ace actually died, because everyone thought, oh, it's gonna be like, oh, it always does. Never kills the characters. Outside of flashbacks. But yeah, that's the point. Cygnus didn't die because, well, first off, it was only hinted. We never actually see the body, which is, just like in One Piece, so it's fine. Troy is the villain. Honestly, I figured out both were true pretty easily, because I'm pretty sure, like, I used my logic for, like, One Piece. Like, we didn't see the king's body, so I don't even know he's dead. And with Troy being the villain, because she even in one of the author notes, the authoress asked, "How did I handle the review?" The reveal that he turned out to be the villain. I thought it wasn't bad. However, I kind of figured out pretty easily, simply because, this is a story based off the Iliad, a story that takes place in the Trojan War, that takes place at the city of Troy, and all these, and I was like, with the character named Troy, like, you kind of expect, like, and my limited knowledge of the Iliad and how it works, is, like, kind of getting obvious that kind of the bad guy, simply for the little knowledge I had of that story. So it was executed. I just personally figured it out pretty easily. But yeah, over the course of the story, we're introduced to more of the world, how the world works. We're given a lot of character development for Helena and Zoro's relationship. Hector, some other characters. There's a whole thing with funeral games, where, like, all the gods actually betting on each other, betting on the Straw Hats and stuff like that. And Zeus is, like, completely smug about it. It's like, ha 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 ha. It's like, no assaulting the fates. All right, I will. Okay, for 72 hours, I won't talk to the fates. Okay, good. Now gone. Hermes. Yes, my new lover. Get her. Her? Yes, her. Her. And of course gets Eris, and Eris just completely fucks things up. But yeah, there's a lot of shenanigans, and the story actually ends pretty nicely with, like, Zoro considering wanting to stay in Ilium, but Helena actually begging Luffy to take him with them because he's realized he wants to be the world's greatest swordsman. And if he stays in Ilium, he won't. Not only will he complete his task, but he'll probably become, like, bitter and lonely and just not himself anymore. So Luffy's like, all right. And of course Zoro wakes up. He starts freaking out. Like, oh my god, no. And then they escape from, like, the marine crafts that were about to attack Ilium to get the Straw Hats. Nami freaks out over the fact that they didn't get their gold because, Zoro spent it on had no choice but to spend it on a lot of stuff, like getting dance husses, the whole kidnap the bride game that they had. They kind of had to pay for a lot. He pretty much used the money to pay for, like, a lot of their supplies, and all that stuff that they kind of honestly needed to spend. And of course, the ending actually has Nami about to hit her. Notices the log post is pointing up and saying, "She gave me a faulty log post. I'm gonna hit you." Wait, what? And of course, the beginning of Skypiea starts with literally a ship falling on top of the sky. Yeah, I know. One Piece is weird. Ignore the fact that One Piece is really weird for shonen. It's, oh my god, you have something special when you're weird by shonen standards. One Piece is really weird. So that's more or less the plot. Like I said, I didn't go into in a lot of the details. Because a lot of the details are mostly character stuff and character driven, and more or less don't really need to be talked about in terms of plot. But with characters, that's all fair game. So for the Straw Hats, for the most part, all of them are pretty much the same standard Straw Hats. Again, this was the author took into the consideration of trying to fit this into canon, and unlike a certain Mega Man story, did it pretty well by not trying to forcefully put it. It's just, here's the thing that happened. Nah. So, for the most part, all the Straw Hats except for Zoro are pretty much act pretty much the same. Like, Luffy's the big thunderhead, typical shonen hero. He has a big heart. He's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed and all that, you know, and moving on with that. Zoro is the only Straw Hat worth talking about, mainly because he's the main character. Him and Helena are the two protagonists, so it makes sense for Zoro to at least get some character development. He didn't get a lot, mainly because, again, he, just like the rest of Straw Hats, he stays pretty much static for literally 90% of the story. Again, it's fine for what the author's doing, but it's still worth talking at least a little bit about Zoro. So, with Zoro, he starts opening up a little bit. He starts getting a little nicer, and he really starts to fall in love with Helena. It's a really sweet, natural moment of him actually, you know, and him actually getting flustered and all that with trying to figure out how love works because, you know, it's Zoro. He's all thick-headed. He has no direction, just like Helena's father. And all of that jazz. And seeing him, you know, kind of do the ins and out of falling in love with Helena and wanting to protect her and all that. And there's even moments where, you know, like, Helena's teaching Zoro some of her techniques, and he's teaching Helena some of his techniques, like how to cut steel and stuff like that. It's very sweet. And it's very well done in a way that doesn't seem, you know, trying to forcefully change Zoro to fit the story. Again, with Zoro, it was very smart to try and keep Zoro as close to canon as possible because, you know, again, trying to fit this into actual canon, into actual story. So, it's fine. The bulk of the good characters comes from the large assortment of original characters in this story. I actually, objectively, I think all of them are pretty good to great, and unlike a certain friend of mine, they're not Sue characters or deconstruction of Sue's. So let's start with probably the one character I'm not a fan with, and that is Chef Feta. Objectively, he works fine. He's basically just a one-note joke character. He's basically like an over-the-top French chef, and his whole power is he secretes stinky cheese from his body. Of course, his name's Feta, so it kind of makes sense. When I first actually introduced, I was first reading the story, and I kind of got introduced like, wait a minute, Feta. And my mind actually think with how One Piece works, sometimes like the odd one out is sometimes the actual antagonist or some kind of, you know, background character. So I thought, oh, it's gonna be Feta who's like the villain, and well, I still thought Troy was gonna be the villain, but you know, Feta was gonna be like kind of the other villain, and they're kind of working together and stuff like that. But no, I turned out to be wrong in that regard. Again, objectively, I think he's fine. He's just basically a one-note gag character. One Piece is full of those, so he doesn't stand out too much. Subjectively, I hate him. I just think he's way too... I get that he's a joke character. His whole purpose, he's supposed to be a joke character. I just think the joke is kind of bad. But he's fine for what he is. Then we have the two dancers, Gloria Dean and... Crap, I completely forgot what the male characters. Gloria Dean and I think Robertus. I believe that's what they're called. Their whole shtick is they actually dance a lot, so, you know, they're basically the dance instructors. They dance a lot. They have basically a weird fruit called the Alpha Omega fruit. Yeah, it kind of fits, but it kind of doesn't fit with the whole naming etymology about how double fruits work, because, you know, like, Luffy has the Gomu Gomu, so it's always like at the same name, like Gomu Gomu, Gora. I think Whitebeard is called the Gorogoro. I can't remember. My favorite female One Piece character, Perona. She has the Horo Horo no Mi, referencing her laugh. And so, again, all the One Piece characters, when it comes to the Devil Fruit etymology, it's always a repeat thing. So having Alpha Omega thing is kind of weird. I get what the author was trying to do, especially with their powers, because basically their whole thing is they copy Devil Fruit powers, which kind of exist in a non-canon capacity. I think, from what I remember, there was an actual a play made by that Oda had some involvement in, and the main villain actually had the copy no Mi, which with the copy fruit, which basically does what those two do. I'm pretty sure the author probably never heard of that, so I wouldn't put it past her if she never heard of that. So I can't blame her. And the whole powers is okay. So the alpha fruit. Basically, they touch it, they copy the powers. The Omega Fruit, on the other hand, she copies it. She touches someone with a Devil Fruit, and she copies what would technically be the opposite of her. So, for example, and they even do an in-story version of this with Luffy actually asking, "What you're like? Hey, you copy the power over the opposite of who you touch. So, what would happen if you touch Luffy, whose ability is rubber?" And she goes, well, I technically turn into the opposite of rubber. So I would turn into something very durable, something staunch and hard, can conduct electricity, can't really bend that much. And she even says she'd probably turn into like metal, which is as close as you can get to the opposite of rubber as possible. Kind of weird, kind of interesting. What would happen if she touches Chopper? No, wait. What would happen if she touches Robin? Yeah. like if she touched, like, honestly, if Gloria Jean touched like Brooke, she'd probably get Big Mom's power. So there's another example. But yeah, they're another group of quirky, lovable characters, and and they're really fun to kind of talk about. There's Paris, whose whole shtick was he's trying to win Helena's heart, but Helena wants a sword fighter, and he uses a bow and arrow as and so I can't remember who tells him. It's like, one of the other characters like, why don't you just use swords? It's like, and so he actually Usopp tells him, like, I'm trying to win Helena's heart. So Usopp says, well, why don't you just use swords instead of arrows? And Perry goes, and so instead of using a bow to launch arrows, he uses swords as arrows, and I love that. It's so One Piece, and that's what makes the character work. And even his personality, he's basically just a dude bro sort of thing. And like half the time, he's like randomly poses for selfies, like, yeah. He's like, oh yeah, he just poses, and he even gets Usopp to get into it. It's like Usopp, hey, what are you doing? It's like, I'm trying to pose for when I become famous. Yeah, wanna join me? Alright. Yeah, and they're just posing. It's so much fun. Again, Paris is kind of a one-note character, but again, it's such a quirky and entertaining character and fits into the world of One Piece, and I can't help but hate the guy. Next character is Troy. Now, I think Troy is a very interesting character. He's basically the main antagonist. His Devil Fruit's actually probably the weirdest because of not so much name. Like his Devil Fruit power is called the Ink Fruit, but how it operates, because how this specific fruit operates is honestly very out there. So basically, oh my god, this devil fruit is just fruit is describe, because it's just so difficult to try and figure out how to properly describe the ink fruit, because it's just it's just weird how it works. So I'm gonna try my best. The ink fruit basically kind of operates like Blackbeard's fruit, kind of. So basically, there's the normal applications. He can basically be a master plagiarist. So like, there's a plot point where they discover a will by the father who didn't die, saying that Helena and Troy are supposed to get married. Like, and he gives all the power to Troy. Troy actually rewrites the will to say that. It actually said it basically said someone has to earn her right to marry her, and Helena still gets the power and stuff like that. But he basically used the power of the inking fruit to basically rewrite the will in her father's handwriting to match to give him the power and all that. However, there is much more devious uses, so he can also kind of control color, and it's actually a plot point where Zoro has the bandana, so like Zoro has like a black bandana, he puts it on his head. During their final fight, he has it on his arm, and so Troy actually is able to use the power of the inking fruit to control the lack of color in the bandana to basically just control Zoro and control how he fights and move around like a puppet. Like I said, this fruit is weird. It's like very hard to actually describe because there's so much going on with it. So like he can control colors, like he can actually saturate, like he can turn a room pitch black. He can like actually, if anything's if he can touch a shadow, he can actually control the shadow and move the shadow around, and so it's kind of like a combination of Gecko Moria's fruit and Blackbeard's fruit. Like I said, this fruit is just weird, and it's just so hard to properly describe. And then there is, I forgot her name. There's Gloria Dean and Andromake's, and I think it's Andromake and Hector's kid. Yeah, no, not their kid. Gloria Dean and Roberta's kid. One of their kids. Pretty sure. Yeah, Gloria Dean and Roberta's kid has the power of the pebble fruit. So basically, she can scoop up rocks and turn it into pebbles and stuff like that. It's basically just masonry. She's basically like an artist and sort of thing. She's probably next to Chef Betta, the weakest character, mainly because I think she's probably going to be useful in the sequel, and didn't really get much screen time outside of the climax of just helping Sanji and Usopp open up the antechamber, so that way they can kind of be able to stand a chance against Troy. But for what she is, she's not bad. Now we got the three big ones. King Cygnus. I love Cygnus, honestly, and I'm on chapter 5 of the sequel, and I love this guy even more. He's again, on paper, if it was any other world, he wouldn't work, but it's One Piece, and he works so well. He's such a quirky character. So basically, he's basically this weak guy. He's basically like this king who's built up, saying he was a strong king. But he was more of a diplomat. He wasn't really a fighter. He could fight if he wanted to, but he chose to be more of a diplomat. And so basically, when the Marines tried to do a buster call on him, he called upon Zeus. Zeus gave him his power in the form of a mask of Zeus to destroy the Marines, on the condition that he has to kill 1,000 random troops. And so he does it for the people, and so he basically tries to raise Helena like him, so that because one of the people who died was his wife. No, his wife died in childbirth. Helena's mother died in childbirth. My bad. And he killed a bunch of people, and he was really ashamed. And honestly, the actions actually left him completely frail, so he couldn't really do that much. And so when Helena healed him, He basically went to talk to the gods. He basically got back home. Apparently, he actually has the same problem as Zoro. He's like, he just can't. He literally can't. He literally gets stalked everywhere. He only shows up at the end, and he's like, "Wait, then where were you?" It's like, "I was trying to get the gods." Then what took you so long? It's like, you what? What? I got lost. Do you understand directions, King? No. Oh God, he's another Zoro! And they actually bond over the fact they're directionally challenged. The king also has this funny quirk where he basically honks like an animal, and he uses his feet to pinch people. And it's like, oh! And he gets like a big thing with Sanji. It's like, oh, you want to go whip for supper? So, oh, I'll teach you, old man. And they're both ready to launch their feet. Again, he's a good written character in the short amount of time that we see him, because he's just so out there, but he fits so well in the world of One Piece. Where, like, he's a staunch king, this diplomat, who, if you even disagree with him, he'll honk in your face and then use his flexible feet to literally just start pinching you, and it's so funny. And I actually, when I first read that, I was caught off guard. It's like, what the what? And I started laughing when I realized he pinched the guy with his feet, and he's like treating it like serious business. And then Sanji's like, "Oh, don't you dare pinch me." He's like, "You want to go whip for supper? I'll teach you a lesson." And he's so funny. He's so quirky and stuff like that. Andromaque is another character. Like, she's fine for what she is. She's basically like this a relative of Mihawk, but she's like, I ain't like, I'm not like Mihawk. I don't treat swords business as so serious. But she's basically just like a surrogate mother for Helena, and basically protects him. Hector. I liked Hector. Hector's probably the blandest, mainly because, you have all these characters that have with like all these quirks and stuff like that, and then Hector's he's kind of like, he doesn't really have a quirk, so he kind of stands out in that way of kind of being technically bland, but he's still a good written character. He's basically loyal to a fault to Helena. He's basically a family man. He wants to, again, compared to like everyone else with all these weird personalities and over the topness, he's very grounded. He works well in the content of the story in the simple fact he is plain, but he's very staunchly loyal. He's very powerful. He has the power of a wood fruit, where he could turn into a plant and all that stuff. And he's basically he technically captures those Straw Hats because he thinks, the princess died. They have, despite the fact I gave you amnesty for basically fighting us, I didn't give you amnesty for killing the princess. So, and he's a really well done character of him, just wanting to help out Helena and protect the kingdom. He's a good solid rock that all these kind of weird characters kind of circle around. Even Helena's kind of quirky in a weird sense. So having a good grounded character works, and he's very well done. Like, he still has some quirks, like with the wood. He basically carries around a spear, and he can turn it into like a paddle, and he can't stand on it and stuff like that. He actually goes into the Mary, like actually melds into the Mary and breaks it and stuff like that, and then fixes it. And it's very, very well done. Like, he's a good grounded character for what the author's trying to do, and I love him for it. Finally, Princess Helena. Oh boy, where do we start with Helena? Honestly, I kid you not, if it wasn't for Valkyrie still being my favorite original character, Helena would actually be that top spot. She is so well written for an original character. She still has the quirk, like, she's still a quirky character, like you see with, like, One Piece, with, like, all the Straw Hats. They're all quirky in some way, like Nami being very greedy, Sanji being very chivalrous and choosing not to use his hands, because in his words, chefs don't use their hands because then they won't be able to cook food. Zoro being directionally challenged, Luffy being Luffy, and, you know, so on and so forth. She's basically a very stubborn person, kind of like Zoro in that regard. She has a very weird fighting style where she uses a rapier and a dagger in her hand, which actually, I believe it's actually historically true, because I believe some members of the 100 Musketeers in Renaissance France, they actually did have a dagger to use off their offhand while they're dueling with rapiers on the off chance. I believe that's actually historically correct, so neat detail if it's true. But she also put 2 rapiers on her feet. And I don't mean like Shiki, where he basically cut off his own legs and tied sword to them. No, she uses her toes, that she got from her father, to fight in a 4-sword style. It's very quirky, but it fits One Piece. Not to mention, come on, we had like Killer Bee with like who fought with 7 swords, so it's not too far fetched in the world of shonen. She has a lot of quirk, and the sword thing is not a lot of quirk. There's another quirk where she's afraid of the dark. She doesn't really like insects. She can't hold her liquor like at all, to the point where whenever she enters the bar, they are under specific, like the people are under specific orders. Give her fruit punch. Just make it look like alcohol. All right, chief. Because apparently, if she even takes so much as a sip, she gets stoned. Like, she doesn't even get buzzed. She just goes from sober to punch drunk. And so everyone's like, oh shit, she's drunk. Get the swords away from her. Why? Because if we don't, then she'll literally destroy half the city. Can she not hold her liquor that much? Zoro, let me put it in the way you understand. Her mother, the same thing happened to her mother. She literally destroyed an entire city, and it took like half the island's residents dogpiling on her to get her, just to stop her. Okay. But underneath all those quirks is a fiercely kind woman who will die to protect her country. And she is also related to Nefertiti Vivi from Alabasta, more just distantly related, but you know. She's very loyal to her country, just like Hector. She is willingly to give up her life if it means protecting her people, her country, and will even spit in the world government's face, saying that we are not part of you. She wants a husband, not even out of love, more just to have another person of loyalty to help her protect her country. But then she goes through this big character arc where she actually genuinely falls in love with Zoro because they work so well together, and he protects her and she protects him, and they kind of form just a neat bond from being together all this time. And she's even kind of like saddened over the fact that she doesn't know how to, just like Zoro doesn't know how to go about this, because she was so used to the idea of marrying out of loyalty and respect, that she doesn't know how it would be able to work in genuine love. To the point where she basically, at the end of the story, she gives Sanji a note, and Sanji gives Zoro the note saying, until you become world greatest swordsman, stay out of the city. Like, just stay out of here, because they both know that if Zoro goes back to the island, he may never leave. And she wants Zoro to accomplish his goal of beating Mihawk. And it's very touching. And she's just such a well-rounded character. She compliments Zoro so well. She compliments all the Straw Hats so well. She even, just like Hector, she compliments the other quirky characters of Ilium very well. She's just so well written that just love her that much. And again, if it wasn't for Valkyrie, she would probably be my favorite original character. And I love Valkyrie for kind of sort of the same reasons why I love Helena. Like, they're both very well written. They're both extremely three-dimensional. The only difference is Helena's not even a deconstruction of a suit character. She's just beautifully written, very, very three-dimensional, very, very relatable. Like, even the people actually love her mainly because she basically, instead of like doing all this high decor, she just goes to the bar and just drinks some beer with them. It's like, nah, or well, drinks fruit punch, but you get the point. But she's very human. She leaps off the page. It's like, honestly, if a character like Helena, if I was told that if I was described the character of Helena, and I was told, is she canon or is she an original character, I wouldn't hesitate to say, with how she is, it's like, she would be a canon character. That's how well written Helena is, that if not for the fact I read this story beforehand, before doing this video, I would say she's an actual One Piece character. That's really takes a lot of skill to do. And the author deserves like a complete respect for doing that, to the where, you know, I think this, if Helena wasn't as well written as she was, I probably wouldn't be giving it so much praise. But that's it with the characters. With the grammar errors, it's fine, nothing fine. The sentence structure is honestly very rough in the first couple chapters. I think this is more due to the fact that the author was trying to figure out what works and how to properly write in the style of the One Piece, because One Piece is a very visual shonen, because it's, you know, a lot of stuff is very thematic and very visual in nature. So it kind of makes sense that the first couple chapters she would have a lot of trouble trying to figure out the wordplay and trying to figure out the sentence structure and all that to try and give it that One Piece vibe, but still make it so that you're still reading a story instead of like going over the top or too technical into it. So for that, aside from the first couple chapters, like first maybe 3 or 4 chapters, it's a 58 chapter story, so it's not, it gets polished up pretty fast. But other than those first 4 chapters, it's fine. Pacing, just like the anime, it takes a very kind of methodical pace, because honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I had work, I actually would have finished the story really fast, because it went by. It went by in the blink of an eye. But that honestly makes the story better, because it emulates the pacing of the I guess you could say the manga so well, in the fact that it's very fast paced, but it still slows down just enough to kind of give you that world building, that character development, all these little nooks and crannies, what One Piece is about, and it gives it so much flavor and so much personality, but still keeps the over the top spectacle of the whole thing. Like, they're in a new island, they got to introduce all these characters, introduce all this stuff, introduce basically how everything works. But it didn't feel too fast for so good, and it didn't feel slow. Like I said, if it wasn't for the fact that I had work, I would have finished the story really quickly, because I was blazing through it, because there was so much to read, but it was going by in a way that it didn't feel bad. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel too slow for its own good. It wasn't trying to be good. Just like the anime or the manga, it was trying to match what One Piece is about. And that deserves a lot of respect. So and in terms of anything else with the pacing, I will have to leave level one tiny criticism to the story, and that is unfortunately related to Helena, or more specifically, her fighting style. Now I'm just gonna talk about it a little bit later, but I just want to mention, keep that in mind for a couple minutes later. Would I recommend this story? I would. Like, 100% wholeheartedly. I don't think this is not my favorite, like my personal favorite story, but it's great. It still it perfectly encapsulates what One Piece is about, and it does it in a way that's very fun, very lighthearted, full of quirky character interactions. Like I said, in terms of character, there's none of the characters are badly written, except for personally Ship, that I just didn't like. I personally just didn't like him, but again, he's fine for what he is. It had a lot of great moments. It had some great comedy. Like, it was very funny. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that the genres are on fanfiction.net are titled adventure romance, that's fine, but I could easily just see if there was more room to put more genres, I could easily see comedy fitting in right there. Like, nothing. And it's just a fun, relaxing story to kind of just relax, let your mind wander, saying, oh, these are so great ideas. Oh, it's so much fun. And again, the characters, just like in One Piece, the characters is what sell this story so much. Like Hector, like Loridine and Robertus, like Paris, and especially Hector, and especially Helena. Like I said, Helena was just a great character, and I love her for it. Favorite part? I actually would have to say... There's honestly a lot to love about this story. There's so many memorable moments. There's like everything with King Cygnus, and like I said, he's just a quirky character. I just love the guy. I love the character. But I would have to say maybe Helena saying goodbye to Zoro, and Helena, probably even more Helena begging Luffy to take Zoro with him, because it feels human. Because with everything that went on with them wanting to be happy, and then Zoro all of a sudden saying, maybe I'll stay here, and then Helena having a crisis of confidence, saying that Zoro desperately wants to be the world's greatest swordsman, and she even realizes that I have to make him leave the island, because he'll never do his dream, and he'll never be happy. And it was honestly a powerful scene, and really encapsulates what made Helena such a great character. Like I said, she was a great character even before then, because there was so much work done with her. There was so much done in terms of her character, with like her motivations and her attitude towards Zoro and pirates, and in the whole idea with falling in love out of loyalty to falling in love with love. And it was just a powerful moment, and it was just really, it was just a microcosm of what made Helena such a compelling character. And even convincing Luffy, that's powerful stuff. Is there anything I would change? Honestly, there is one thing. Going back to the whole fighting style with Helena, I wouldn't really change anything about her fighting style, because it's decidedly One Piece. The problem is with Helena's fighting style is it's very rough to figure out how to write it for her. So what I would propose, there's two things I would propose. First off, the first couple chapters, just simply polish them up. Nothing too bad. And second, I would probably leave an author's note describing how Helena's specific fighting style works, because at the beginning, when Helena and Zoro fought, the writing was very awkward, trying to figure out how to properly describe how she fights, because I couldn't tell if she was fighting while on her hands, because how she gets the feet off, the swords on her legs, she tosses them up, she gets into a handstand, and she basically grabs into her feet, and then she basically then the writing style actually shows her just grabbing another rapier, and then that's it. So it's like, it was very hard to tell if she got back on her feet or what she's still on her hands. So I think maybe an author's note just describing how specifically her fighting style works would kind of be a little helpful to anyone wanting to read this story, and how specifically the writing is going to work with her. So that is my review on the Straw Hats and the Iliad. Like I said, I love the story. It's very entertaining. It's very colorful. It's very One Piece. I love the characters, especially Helena again. I just can't get over how good her character is and how natural it fits in the One Piece world. And everything about them, and everything about the characters, all about Ilium. Everything that goes on with it, it's so One Piece, and it's just so entertaining and so much fun to read. And honestly, I only just started the sequel. It has Perona, best girl, and it has more King Cygnus and it looks like King Cygnus is actually moving up to main character. So I can't wait to read that story. I honestly can't wait to finish that story, and I can't wait to talk about that story in the next video. So, that is my review on the Straw Hats and the Iliad. This is Dark Symphony 777, and cut.